Hello and welcome back to Fort Wayne on the Move with me, Councilwoman Michelle Chambers. I am super excited to end the year with one of my favorite people in the city, with John Urbahns, the president of Greater Fort Wayne, Inc. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for saying yes. I know that you are a busy man. So let's just get into this. I want to talk about your journey to leading GFW.
Oh gosh.
I know oftentimes people don't realize, they see other people at ribbon cuttings, you're there, but you're always just kind of in the background taking it all in because you have amazing staff. How did you get this wonderful job to be our fearless leader at Greater Fort Wayne?
Oh, well, it goes back 29 years.
29?
I came to Fort Wayne 29 years ago,
Okay.
straight out of college with an urban planning degree, and got a chance to work for the city of Fort Wayne as a neighborhood planner.
Really?
Yep, and that's where it all started, and then had opportunity to grow within the department. Ultimately became community development director for about 8 years, and then 11 years ago made the switch to head up Greater Fort Wayne, Inc.
Has it been 11 years?
It's been 11 years, yeah.
I cannot believe it's been 11 years. And the growth that has taken place under your leadership. When you decided to step out, apply for that job, what was like some of your vision? Why did you want to go and be the leader of GFW?
You know, I saw when they created Greater Fort Wayne, Inc. and merged the Chamber and the Economic Development Agency and Leadership Fort Wayne together, it really was encompassing all types of growth, right? It was what I kind of trained for with an urban planning degree, but working in community development and economic development, I just saw it as a great opportunity to have a broader impact across the entire county. And still do most of what I was doing when I was at the city, just from a little bit of a different seat.
I love that. It's interesting. So you have a degree in urban planning, right?
I do, yep.
So if we have younger individuals watching our show this evening, what does a degree in urban planning really mean? What does an urban planning degree do?
So to me, urban planning, my degree is very design focused. So I went to Ball State University. It's very design-based urban planning curriculum, but it really prepares you to problem solve within the community. And the thing I like about it, when you think about a development, there's architects, there's engineers, there's landscape architects, and planning is the best of all of that. You're not just designing a single building, you're really designing a community. And more importantly, you're working with the community. That's why I think the getting started with neighborhood planning, stuff that Dan Baisden and the team are doing now, you hear exactly what's going on in the community. Because at the end of the day, we're building a community for our residents.
Yes.
Right? Not somebody else. We're building it for our residents to make it a place where they want to stay. And hopefully, I say all the time, one of my biggest jobs is creating a community that my kids want to stay.
Yeah.
I've got 3 kids that I think will stay here, and it's because of the community that we've built. It's because we listened to people.
Yeah, you do, intently. You kind of glazed over. Now, GFW became GFW. I think you mentioned 3 entities merged. Can
Yes.
you give us a little history about that?
Yeah, so in 2012, conversations started to occur about maybe merging together the Chamber of Commerce. Fort Wayne Chamber of Commerce had been around for 100 years. The Economic Development Alliance had been around since 1999. So it was 22 years old at the time. And then Leadership Fort Wayne was started in 1985. And business leaders, Commissioner Peters and Mayor Henry got together and said, how do we do something that creates a bolder organization that brings it all together? There's got to be economies of scale. Do we all need a CFO and an accounting team? Do we all need all these pieces? And the thought was, let's put them all together. So that was the impetus of creating Greater Fort Wayne, Inc. Brought all 3 organizations together with the idea that we'd have one big board of directors, and it would be an inclusive board. We've got 58 board members right now.
Really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's a very large board. When you think about it, we've got everything from entrepreneurs who are working by themselves all the way up to Parkview Health with 16,000 employees in the region.
Wow.
We've got everything in between, plus nonprofits. So we've got a very diverse board, very, very diverse in industry focus and type of company that can come together and I think be a driving force to help economic development move forward in our community.
What I like about GFW, I was very fortunate enough to be able to serve on the Women's Network.
Yeah.
The programming that you have with GFW, it's so vast. absolutely we'll talk about the economic piece, but I feel like it's very unique, from the women's initiative to the welcoming initiative to the entrepreneur. The net is cast so wide, but it's very intentional. It's like it all feeds into the overall arching goals of GFW. Share a little bit about the programming.
It's very intentional. And the programming, I love our programming, because sometimes people think, oh, you're just about big business, or you're just about downtown Fort Wayne. And when you look at the work we do, 83% of our almost 1,400 members are small businesses, fewer than 50 employees. You look at the Leadership Fort Wayne program. You look at the Women's Network, now with 200 plus women that meet on a regular basis. We've got small business roundtables. We've got CEO roundtables. We're doing some work next year with some small business exchange for programs specifically for smaller businesses. Mm-hmm. So it's really, it's a very diverse set of offerings, and it's not just what maybe somebody would think. But it's, you mentioned intentionality, that it is intentional of why we do it, to bring all those pieces together, because economic development is not just one thing, it's a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. And since we're talking about economic development, how do you measure economic development?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we look at and track metrics on. At the end of the day, economic development is about economic growth within the community. Mm-hmm. That can be measured in a lot of different ways. Job creation, investment dollars, new average wage, or new wages within the community, GDP growth, gross domestic product growth. All those pieces are different pieces. Some of the key things that we look at job creation. That's a key piece. We look at the total investment within the community. We look at community growth. Are we growing? And it's not just, are we growing from the local pool, but are we attracting people to the community? Are we attracting outside investment and people moving into the market? So those things we track very closely.
And the organization is just like full of information. It's like you could get lost at the GFW page because all of the data and all the information. It's very informative. So let's talk about economic development this year. You have been a part of some really big projects. Let's talk about those big projects. Let's start with Google.
Google, great example of a project. When you think about, is there anybody out there that doesn't know Google? So when you think about just the name Google, not to mention the investment that they're making, right? They announced an initial $2 billion investment in our community. $2 billion. Wow. That is their single largest investment of at any place in the country.
I didn't know that.
As a one-time piece, and there's room for additional growth there. So that's their single largest announcement. $2 billion, 200 great jobs out there, and the spin-off of that. Think about that. That's $2 billion of investment means significant activity in the market. So when you think about economic development, it's not always just about the jobs that are created on a project. Mm-hmm. That means that people are going to be working out there from a construction standpoint for the next several years. That's a lot of jobs that are built off of that, kind of the indirect jobs or the induced jobs because of a project.
So as you know, we get a lot of recognitions as a city. We're growing. We're on affordability. Can you share with us like these new jobs that have come on board? Average salaries, because we are considered a very affordable city still, even though we have a lot of economic growth going, we have big businesses coming in. How are they paying our constituents, folks that live here?
So that's something we track very closely, the average wage. The average wage in the community right now is $56,500 roughly. Okay. That's when you look at the numbers, that's the current county average wage. This year, we had 1,050 new job commitments through projects. 21 projects, just over 1,000 new job commitments. The average wage of those jobs was almost $72,000. So that's $15,000, $16,000 more than the current average. That's the best year that we've seen on record.
Wow.
Surpassed 2022, which was the previous high at 61,000, and last year's average at 60,000. So now we're talking 10 to 12,000 over the average of the last 2 years. So a great year for us in the community.
So this year, you said Google was doing $2 billion, or was there
$2 billion capital investment?
do you have an overall total investment this year that we've
Overall capital investment was $6.5 billion in those, just in those 21 projects. That doesn't include, maybe projects we didn't work on, regular investment within the community, new housing growth. So a lot of capital investment in the community.
So as we're doing and attracting larger corporations and we're developing, why this is more of a planning question, why do you believe and stand behind, why does quality of place matter?
Quality of place is a key ingredient in economic development. If you don't have a high quality of place, you're not going to attract people and you're not going to attract jobs. You're going to continue to see decline. You see communities that don't have a good quality of place. Who wants to move to a community that doesn't have a good quality of place? So companies pay attention to how we are investing in ourselves to build that quality of place. You go back to Parkview Field and you look at the riverfront at Promenade Park and you look at other projects. Those were projects that invested in our community that led people to make investment decisions. And they made those investment decisions because they were able to garner employees. Right? If they can't garner employees here and attract new residents to our community, you're not going to see companies like Fort Wayne Metals grow by 300 employees.
Real 300? I didn't know that.
300 employees. L3 Harris, which is making satellites that are used around the world, adding another 50 employees this year. They're going to make decisions to live elsewhere if we don't have that quality of life. So that's where I think we've really figured it out as a community. Very affordable, right? And affordability is it's a moving needle, and we've seen affordability increase. Obviously, home prices have gone up. They haven't gone up the same as they have in other parts of the country. So, even though it's up a little bit, it's still affordable when you look across the country. But we've paired that with a good quality of life. And that is why we've seen significant domestic migration, people moving in from outside over the last 7 to 8 years.
And speaking of that, that's why it really matters that we do attract talent.
Right.
And you're very intentional with that, being intentional, and the talent that comes here. It's like I can't think of the program right now, but what's the program?
On Board Fort Wayne.
On Board Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
Tell us about that when new people come into our city.
So we started this program probably about 4 years ago. I think we started it during COVID. But what we'd seen in going out and talking to businesses, because we go out and talk to hundreds of businesses each year, what are their challenges? What are they seeing? What we heard from businesses was, we may be able to attract somebody, but we can't keep them here. So how do we start to build some stickiness? How do we make sure that when they come, their spouse, their significant other, their kids are welcomed here? So we decided to create a program called On Board Fort Wayne, and it was really about welcoming newcomers, and it's at all levels. We've got some program we specifically do for new CEOs into the market to really get them ingrained in the community, managers, and then just anybody that's moving in, bring them out to events, pair them with folks that they can start to create stickiness and create connections. Because who wants to be in a community that you can't get connected within, or that you can't find new friends? And that's what it's been about, making sure that they feel loved here and they feel welcomed, and that we can create that stickiness. That's helping companies retain talent.
Yes.
And it's not just about that employee. If you move here and your spouse or significant other or your kids aren't happy, how long are you going to stay here? So we've got several programs that we run to help those people get connected and get ingrained within the community.
I love that as we talk about talent and economic development. And you had said something when the three entities came together, the chamber had been here 100 years, right? So it matters that we're growing. We're never wanting GFW to work its way out, close the doors. Why does growing matter?
If you're not growing, you're dying. It's as simple as that. If a community is not growing, if a community is not seeing investment, you're dying. And that's something we have to continue to. People tell me, when do you take the foot off the gas? When do you stop doing this or that? When's enough? You got to keep your foot on the gas, because if we're not doing those things, other communities are. Every day people wake up and make a decision. Do I want to keep living here, or do I want to go somewhere else? Do I have an opportunity here, or are there better opportunities somewhere else? So we've got to make sure that we keep that going.
Something that was very impressive with the city and the growth, we were able to keep cranes going through COVID.
Yeah.
We kept the cranes going, we kept developing. What do you think is your secret sauce as a team that you're able to attract these entities that still, even when nobody knows what's next, we are still popping up cranes and building. What do you think that secret
I
sauce
think
is
that
for GFW to make that
it's
happen?
not just the GFW secret sauce. I think it's a community secret sauce.
Okay.
Because it's how we work together. You know, while we may be the front line on something, we're working as an extension of the city staff, the county staff, New Haven staff, everybody within the community we work together with. And the other piece I will say is we figure out how to get projects done, especially here in Fort Wayne. You look back to, you know, Parkview Field and the Harrison building. Those were done during a huge downturn, you know, during the housing crisis. Electric Works, $300 million phase one was completed during COVID. The Landing, huge development. Developers look at us and say, that's a community that knows how to work together and get things done. And that's not just our team, that goes to especially the city staff and elected officials that are making decisions on these projects, that people see that and it makes a difference. If you go to some other communities, and we have developers come here and say, you know, I thought about looking here or there, they just don't have their act together. They're not working together. They don't know how to get a deal done. You're not going to hear that here.
No, and that's very impressive. I've been listening intently. Commissioners, city council, the city, New Haven mayor. So you're working with all the public sectors, all of the entities to get these jobs done. And that is impressive. Developers know that they can come here and if it's a good project, it benefits the community, we're working towards making that happen.
Yep.
So in our growth, and we have a lot of growth happening right now, what are we going to do about our land? You know, we're growing. And
we are.
And the all-in plan, it says, you know, we need some infill development. We may need to go a little denser, a little closer. How do you feel about Fort Wayne? Do we have the potential to continue to grow?
Absolutely. So I'll throw out a couple stats.
Okay.
The Fort Wayne metro area, so broader than just the city of Fort Wayne, the metro area is the second fastest growing metro in the Great Lakes region. The city of Fort Wayne itself is the fastest growing city in the Midwest. Fastest growing city. Now that bucks a lot of trends because some of those metros that are growing in the metro area, not in the urban core.
Okay.
When you look at Fort Wayne, our city population is growing faster than the rest of the cities. So Indianapolis is a good example. They've seen a lot of outmigration from the city of Fort Wayne, yet their metro area is growing significantly because there's a lot of suburbanization. Whereas we've continued to capture growth, you know, we're definitely growing in the suburban areas as well. But in the city of Fort Wayne population is growing, which is an important piece. Now the land piece that you talked about, that's where we have to get creative. You know, we need to look at what land has been passed over. Why has it been passed over? How do we make it developable? How do we look at redevelopment? Right? Everything has a useful life, and there's a lot of areas still that we could look at redevelopment. And when you look at downtown, for example, we've taken parking lots that maybe housed a business and turned it into a complex that now has businesses and a couple hundred apartments on it, and parking spaces. We've figured out a way to grow up and a little more dense, which we need to continue to look at. But when you look at some of the commercial corridors that lead into downtown, some of the areas southeast, we're looking with the city team right now on some of the land that's been passed over, where maybe it was historically industrial property. How do we get it back to industry? How do we get it back to being something that's adding value and creating reinvestment within the community? So I don't think we have a land problem. I think we have to just look creatively at how we redevelop different pieces.
It's that creative part.
Yep.
I'm excited about our downtown. I'm excited about the connectivity that we're working on from all the way to the riverfront. You come through downtown, you can go down to Electric Works, you can go over to the Fairfield, go over to the stadium, and just, you know, loop it all around. And each of those pockets, each area, you know, it's growing.
Absolutely.
It is growing. We're creating an environment where everybody can come. So How does the state and the state house impact what we do up here? Because is it once or twice a year you do a legislative update?
We do three.
Three.
Yep.
Which I was like, that's smart.
Yeah, we put together a legislative agenda that
Yes.
we take to our board and they approve, and it has local, state, and federal legislative issues that we want to focus on. And as much as we're out working with city council members like yourself, we're having similar conversations. Melissa Bieber, our Vice President of Business Advocacy, and I are meeting regularly with the state legislators as well. Meeting with them here in town. When their session starts up here in January, she's going to be down there once a week, meeting with them. And I'll be down there making sure that we're pushing initiatives that help investment here. So you look at projects like Electric Works, the state tax credits that went into that. When you look at the programs like the Regional Cities Initiative, back in about 2016 and now Ready and Ready 2, we were working closely with the legislature to make sure that those programs were funded so that there was an opportunity to bring capital here to partner with projects. It's not about them doing a project per se, but it's about working with them to help leverage private sector dollars to go into a project. So there's pieces like that. There's other projects within the. We worked very hard with the legislature 2 years ago to get funding for the Purdue Fort Wayne School of Music. We've got a $28 million School of Music going on at the campus that ties right into our concept of building the music economy here locally.
We have the Pearl.
We've got the Pearl Street Arts. We've got all these great things. So it's I say that we're working with the state legislature very closely to find ways for them to help projects move forward here.
You work with the community, you work with legislators, you work with businesses, cities that are abutting, that are our neighbors.
Yeah.
I know you have the occasion to go and travel to other cities to see ideas and different things. Are people coming to visit us yet?
Yeah, absolutely. People are coming here to take a look at things. When you look at, there's been 30 plus communities have probably come in to look at Parkview Field. We've had communities come in to look.
It's nationally ranked, our field?
Absolutely, yeah. It's #1 minor league ballpark in the country. For 13 of the last 15 years that it's been open, or some number like that. And people are looking at the riverfront. People are looking at how we structured deals like the Landing or Electric Works. I get the pleasure of meeting a lot of times with people that are just coming here for the first time, or they haven't been here for a long time. Whether that's somebody to look at what's going on, or a business coming in to look at some opportunity, they are in awe of what they see here. And if they were here maybe 20 years ago, they're like, what happened? How did you do this? So it's great to be able to talk to them and explain how, as a community, we pulled this off. It's not one person, it's not one group, not one organization. We together, and that's one of the things we always talk about. Like, even with the economic development projects, we always talk about them as community wins. They're not our wins. They're the community wins, because it took all of us to get these things done.
And that's something that I really enjoy about you as a leader, that you're very intentional in keeping us informed. We have the opportunity to meet with you quarterly. You bring us up to speed on everything. What are some of the challenges and possible opportunities that you see ahead of us as a city?
Yeah, I think I see a lot of opportunity. I see a lot of growth opportunity. I look at the north side of the river, and we've seen the first project, like the Wedge and the Pepsi project proposed. We're looking at things on the North River property. There's a lot of potential there, a lot of potential that I see. You look down around Electric Works, there's more potential. I see a lot of opportunity building off of Google in Southeast Fort Wayne, and how we continue to build up. People, quietly, there's been about $250 million invested Southeast in the last, just within the last 18 months.
Really?
With projects down at Park's Edge, and projects like that. There's just been investment that continues to add up that people don't pay attention to. Roosevelt Reserves, and where the city stepped in and said, hey, let's help figure out how to get this done. The first phase is sold out, right? And
it had been 50 years since market rate housing. And
first market rate housing project, and the first phase is already sold out. So there's great opportunity there. I see lots more opportunity than I do challenges. Obviously, we're still watching where inflation heads.
Yeah.
We're going to go into a new year next year, and we'll see how things progress. I see a lot of great opportunity here, and I look forward to another decade of growth.
Well, this is one of my questions. Do you see another hotel ever downtown
Definitely.
I hope so. Do you see it being like boutique? Bradley, love the Bradley. Will our blueprint ever be bigger, or we'll have more boutiques, or is just?
Well, so if you talk to Jill Boggs and visit Fort Wayne, there's definitely a need for additional convention hotel space in the community. I think there's room for additional, higher end hotels like the Bradley as well. I think as you see the north side of the river build out, that's going to continue to drive some additional hotel expansion too. So definitely something that that we have to look at. It's the hotels are seeing a lot of success right now. The convention center is always busy, so it's definitely something I believe we'll see in the near future.
We're just located in the right space here in Fort Wayne for the opportunity of growth and to continue to bring business. 5 years out, what do you think will be happening in the city?
What do I think we have? Just continued growth. I think we're going to see cranes on the north side of the river in a big way. I think we're going to continue to see projects throughout the community, and I just continue to see that growth number going up.
Well, I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you. Something that I admire about you that I've noticed, you like to work with wood, right? And make different things.
I do. I'm a woodworker.
Yeah.
On the side.
I've seen and the way you repurpose. How did you become a woodworker?
Oh, I took shop class in high school, and my dad was extremely handy. We didn't hire anybody. He worked on everything around the house. So I feel like I'm kind of a jack of all trades when that comes to that. But I've just always kind of goes back to my design background too. I like designing things. I like taking older pieces of wood, older material, and repurposing it into newer furniture pieces.
It's very impressive. I'm just like,
oh, thanks.
I was like, wow, I would have never known.
It's a bit of a release too. Like my favorite spot is my garage.
Okay.
And it's where I go to these. And I've had people say, you should sell that. You should do this. I'm like, then it becomes a job.
Okay.
It's my release. I just go out, and even my kids are like, Dad, you've made enough tables. I'm like,
yeah.
There's always room for one more table.
And it's beautiful too. So I wanted to compliment you. You're very talented. You're a great woodworker. What do you think, as we're rounding towards the end of our conversation, have we had any missed opportunities, or we're still?
You've always got missed opportunities. I would say that the majority of of the opportunities we've had, we've won. But if I look back over the last decade, there's definitely been some projects that I thought that would have been nice to land. But we've been very successful. And I think the important piece is learning our lessons from that. Why did we lose it? Sometimes we just don't know. Sometimes maybe somebody else had a better product. So then how do we make sure that we are ready to go, and it doesn't take as long to maybe get some piece of the utility there or things like that. And that's where we've pushed to have shell buildings, buildings that are ready to go, because at the end of the day, companies are focused on speed to market now. So having shell buildings, having property that has utilities there, and they can come in and develop right away. And I think as a community, we've learned our lessons from that, and over the last decade, we've had those pieces in place.
Well, I'll say this. I really appreciate your leadership, your intentionality, the diversity of Greater Fort Wayne, the programming. It's like you have all the tentacles connecting and, making those decisions for the community. So your work doesn't go unseen, and that's why I wanted to end the year so that our constituents, the people that live here, they understand it's not just a city, it's a team that is making sure we have cranes in the air, we're bringing in great jobs to the city, and it doesn't happen with just one entity.
Absolutely.
It takes a team.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming to hang out with me today, and I want you to share with our viewing audience the website, because there's a lot of information there. The individuals, they just want to take the time and learn about our city, our capacity, what we're doing, what the future is looking like. So if you could look in that camera over there and tell them where to go learn all about the city.
Hey, thank you for your comments about us as an organization. www.greaterfortwayneinc.com is our website. You can get a lot of great information there. And that's where companies from the outside that are looking in, that's where they look as well. So we try to make sure we have good, relevant information there. We are going through a website upgrade right now, so we're going to relaunch a new website in the early summer, late spring.
We are too, the city.
But there's great information there. One of the things, there's great information for you to go sell, right? It's not just about us selling. We need anybody and everybody that's out talking to people whether they're traveling for business, traveling for for personal reasons.
Yes.
Talk about the community. You are a salesperson just as much as we are.
And I agree with you. So thank you for tuning in. This will get hot off the presses in the next 24 to 48 hours. I'll see you in 2025. Be safe. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and remember, we are a city on the move, and we'll see you in 2025. Thank you.